welcome back to Cruising as Crew. My name is Lucy and today we are going to go through all the things that they don't tell you about working on cruise ships, and I wish I would have known these things before I started my career on cruise ships. The first thing that I wish I'd have known is about tax. Now, bearing in mind I am from England and I worked for Steiner and for Harding on board cruise ships. So Steiner the spa and Harding the retail company. Basically, I have always been told your tax gets done for you, but not in this case. And there's a lot of people whose tax doesn't get done for them because obviously you're in international waters and people are from all over the world. So paying your tax is your responsibility. You are going to have to research the tax laws for your country and like what it means if you're working out of the country for more than 6 months a year, because for me in England I am exempt from paying tax if I'm out of the country more than half a year. I just have to prove it, and there are multiple ways that you can prove it. You could do, there's a form where you get one of the officers to fill in the midnight positions, but that is a lot of work. So honestly, you can only really get that done if you're friendly with like someone on the bridge and they're willing to do you a big favor, because it does take a while. An easy one is like getting a letter from your company to basically state, yes, they work away, they're on this ship, they're in these places for this amount of time, and getting that signed by someone from the company. Like, there are many ways, but you do need to prove that you are out of the country for a certain amount of time. And the way I have to treat tax is as if I'm like self-employed, which is crazy because I am employed by Harding, but anyway, but because it's cruise ships it like works a little bit differently. So the thing I did was I just got an accountant. I hired an accountant because I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to hire an expert, and all I have to do is give him all of my pay slips and a letter from my company basically proving that I am out of the country for more than 6 months a year. And I mean, hopefully it's all going to work out, but like, this is something that I wish someone would have told me. Like, you have to figure out your own tax and you have to get yourself an accountant. For a long time I just had no idea what I was doing. If you want to work on cruise ships, that is something that you need to organise yourself. Like, how is tax going to work? How am I going to pay my tax? And I would love to do a video on it, but I don't really understand it myself, so I don't want to give the wrong information on it. And also, the information that is relevant to me from England is not going to be relevant to someone from Brazil, because every country has different tax laws. Still on the money subject, banks. So on cruise ships for a long time people were paid in cash. I know, can you believe that? I remember like literally not even that long ago on P&O in 2019, it would get to the end of the cruise and the manager would give everyone an envelope and it would just have cash in it. How crazy is that? They don't do that anymore, thank God, because honestly, because there was a huge problem. Like, people would store their cash underneath their mattress, but like if someone came into your cabin and stole all your cash out of your mattress, like, that's your whole contract's money gone. A lot of people would store their cash in crew office, but still, like, it's just not what we do anymore. Everyone gets paid into their bank account for years. Like, why are you still paying people in cash? Anyway, I digress. What I wish I would have been told is the banks that the company is going to use to pay you is crap. So when I worked for Steiner, I got paid into Ocean Pay. Now I work for Harding, I get paid into Brightwell, that's the name of the bank. There's one called My Crew Wallet. Like, there's a few different ones. But banks that are made for seafarers are usually very, very poor. They don't have good safety laws on the money. So my advice to you is get your money out of that bank account as soon as you can. Get a Monzo, get a TransferWise, a Starling account, and basically as soon as that money comes into your Ocean Pay or your Brightwell, you transfer it to your bank account. And this is going to be difficult to set up because these banks make it difficult for you to transfer your money, which is so wild because so many people work on cruise ships so they can earn money so they can send it back home to their family. But the problem with these banks, especially Ocean Pay, is they want to keep your money in their bank. So honestly, transferring money from Ocean Pay is one of the most frustrating things you will ever try to do. but just make sure you get it done, make sure you get it out of there and into a secure bank account. You're going to be reimbursed for a lot of things. Now, my first company, I mean, many of you know who it was, my first company didn't tell me that I would get reimbursed for flights, training, uniform, a lot of things, injections that I needed, so I didn't keep any of the receipts. And then I got on board and my manager was like, right, where are your receipts for all your reimbursements? And I was like, I was told that I wasn't going to be reimbursed. And she was like, well, only if you have the receipts. And I was like, well, I don't have the receipts because I was told there was no point keeping them. So the point is, some of these companies are a bit shady. Not all of them, but some of them are. Keep your receipts for absolutely everything. Everything you purchase for the ship, like your medical, your STCW, all your certificates, any injections you need or any medical care you need to work on the cruise ship. Your flights, luggage costs, hotel costs, food costs when you're at the airport. Just keep all the receipts, and then when you are on board you can ask the right people about reimbursements and if you can get some things reimbursed. Because honestly, it's really sad, but I can't even tell you the amount of people that could have been reimbursed but they threw away all their receipts, so there won't be. So please, 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 please keep all of your receipts for absolutely everything to do with the cruise line, because a lot of times you can be reimbursed, and some companies are better at this than others. Sometimes you really do need to chase your reimbursement, but I'm sorry, if it's for £1,000 SDCW certificate, it's worth chasing. Alright, maybe you don't need to chase them for the reimbursement on that $5 sandwich you had in the airport, but a medical, an STCW certificate, like, they're expensive. So definitely keep the receipts for all of that, because hopefully you will be able to get reimbursed. Even if you're told that you won't be able to be reimbursed, just keep the receipts anyway. English. So this one isn't really relevant for me because English is my first language, but after speaking to a lot of people, this is something that they wish they had known before they came on board. So as you will know, if you're looking for a job on a cruise ship, you have to speak English because that is the dominant language on board. Even though there are people from all countries on board who speak all different languages, everybody is required to speak English. So your English has to be decent. But what a lot of people realised when they came on board is they're like, so I've been learning American English or British English, but now I'm on board a cruise ship and I'm speaking English to an Indian guy, a Brazilian girl, a Portuguese man. Now what this means is, yes, okay, you're all speaking English, but everyone has very thick accents. So if you are from Brazil and you only understand American English, when you're speaking to that Indian guy, he might be speaking English, but that's going to be really, really tricky for you to understand. Now, there's not much that you could do about this, honestly. It's just a bridge that you're going to have to cross when you get on board the cruise ship. But I just want to make you aware that, like, it's a normal realization that people can speak a certain type of English and then they get on board and they're like, oh my god, I have no idea what you're saying. Speaking to my Brazilian friend at work last night, and there was this Welsh couple that came up to us. They were like, hello, can you tell us where the toilets are, please? Now I understood them, and she was like, did they speak English? And I was like, yeah. And she, obviously, Welsh accent, had absolutely no idea what they said. So it is, like I said, it is a bridge that you're going to have to cross when you get on board. It is a completely normal realization, but it is something to be aware of. Like, maybe if you are joining cruise ships, maybe it's worth watching some videos of, I don't know, Indian people speaking English and just listening to different accents speak English, because it is a bit of a shock to the system when you get on board and you're like, I can't understand anyone, and I thought I'd be fine because I can speak English. Because let me tell you, there are very, very few people on board who actually speak American English. The sailors do, but crew, there's very few Americans on board, you are going to have a shock. So it's just something to be aware of. You don't have to bring everything. So on my first contract, and even on my second contract actually, I packed absolutely everything. I packed like 8 months worth of foundation, 8 months worth of foundation, 8 months worth of shampoo. Like, I was like, I don't need to shop this entire contract. What I forgot is that we are in port almost every day, and these ports usually have shops, and not only shops, shopping malls. So if you forget something, if you forget a toothbrush, a hairbrush, a foundation, anything, you will be able to get it outside in port. And I think that's what a lot of people like don't think about when they're packing for their first contract. You kind of go with this mentality of like, I'm going on a ship and I'm not going to be able to get off. And the reality is you're going to get off at least once a week, and you're going to be able to buy the essentials that you need. So if your case is bursting at the seams, you don't need 8 months worth of shampoo. You are going to be able to buy it out in port. And that is something that I wish someone had told me before I started packing for my first contract, because, well, it just would have made life so much easier if I hadn't have felt like I needed to take all of that stuff with me. Like I said, most of it was things that I could have bought out in port, but I just didn't think that far ahead when I was packing for my first contract, because you don't, because you've never done it before. All you can think is going on a boat, what do I need? But yeah, you will be able to get off every day and buy your essentials. People go on cruise ships thinking that they are going to save loads of money because they're not going to pay for rent, they're not going to pay for a car, there's not going to be a big commute for work, and that is very true, and you can save a lot of money. I've done a lot of videos on how to save money on a cruise ship and why it is so easy. But I wish someone had said to me, you are going to spend a lot of money on Wi-Fi and food. So on Virgin, my Wi-Fi is free and the food is really good, so it doesn't really apply here. But on other cruise lines, where the Wi-Fi was not free, yeah, it was. I was spending like £600 a month on Wi-Fi. And it was awful Wi-Fi as well. And then because the food was so awful in the mess, every chance I could get off in port, I was having lunch or dinner. Like, I was buying food in a restaurant out in port. So when I finished my first contract, I realised that I had spent like £2 on food. And you just don't think you're going to do that because you're like, well, no, the food's free. I'm like, well, yeah, the food's free, but it's also horrible. Usually. So what I would say is, if you are on a ship that is going to be in the same place for months on end, like if your ship's going to be in Alaska for 3 months, or if it's going to be in Australia for 3 months, or like me, we've been in Europe for 4 months, 5 months now, and then it's going over to America and it's going to be doing the same itinerary in America for probably 5 months, buy a SIM card. It's going to work out so much cheaper and the internet's probably going to be better. The only thing is the SIM card won't work when you are at sea, but you want to find a SIM card that works in all of the ports that you are going to. So like my friend's got a Spanish SIM card, so whenever we're in Spanish ports it works amazingly, but it still works when we are in Italian ports as well. Do your research and get yourself a SIM card, but obviously to do this you need to make sure that your phone is unlocked before you go on your cruise ship contract. And then as far as food goes, I'm not going to tell you not to spend money on food, because I love spending money on food. It's like my favourite thing to buy. But what I would say is all those little purchases add up. If you're spending, well, not little, like if you're spending £20 on lunch every day, that's $140 a week just on lunch. Like, that's a lot of money. So you just want to be conscious of what you're spending on food. If you want to save, I mean, if you don't want to save, then get it. But if you do want to save, you just need to be really conscious about what you're buying in port, because it does add up. Be ready for the rules. When you are on a cruise ship, there are a lot of rules. Like, due to your rank, you might not be allowed to go to certain restaurants or be in certain passenger areas. There's in-port manning, which means that a certain amount of people have to stay on the ship while the ship is in port, just in case there is an emergency. You have to wear your name badge everywhere you go if you're crew. You can't wear flip-flops down the I-95 because it's a safety hazard. Like, there's a lot of little rules, and there's some little and some big. it can be quite shocking for people who've lived a very rule-free life to then go on a cruise ship and they feel like they're under the thumb. And the other thing is, because it's a ship, your manager always has access to you. So even if you're not at work, you still have to follow the rules, because obviously everyone has a job and everyone knows that when you're at work you follow the rules, but then when you're not at work you get to let loose a bit. But like I've always said, on a cruise ship you're never off, you're on standby. You're on when you're at work, but when you're off you're just on standby, because you can be got hold of at any point and you still need to be following all of those rules even though you're not at work. So there's nothing you could do about it. It's just something you should be aware of. Like, there are going to be a lot of rules when you get on board that you're going to have to follow. And if you don't follow them, then you're just going to get in trouble all the time and it's going to be a very difficult contract for you. And the last one I wish I had have known is it's really easy to change position once you are on board. So a lot of people don't go on cruise ships because they've applied for a job, let's say in shore excursions, and they haven't got it, and they're like, well, that's the job I want to do. Well, like a lot of companies, once you've got your foot in the door, it's a lot easier to change departments. So my advice is, if you really want to work on cruise ships, just get a job. Just get a job as housekeeping or in the shops or something else, and then once you are on board you get to know the people who are in the department that you want to be in. You can do some cross training in your spare time, and then when you apply for that job they're going to be more likely to hire you for the position because they know you, rather than some weirdo who's applied on the internet, which is what you are at first. So before I was on Virgin, when I was with P&O, I really wanted to be a next cruise. So basically the people that sell you your next cruise while you're still on the cruise. In my spare time, I would go to the loyalty desk and learn how the systems worked and everything. Now, obviously I ended up getting the job on Virgin, so that's a whole different story. But the point is, it was really easy for me to cross-train while I was there, and then I think if I'd have applied for the job I probably would have got it because they knew me, they liked me, they knew that I was good at my job. So it's all about just getting your foot in the door. So if you want to work on cruise ships, you don't have to get your dream position at the start. Like, there was a girl actually who came on Virgin as housekeeping, and then she was like, but I want to work in the shops, and she transferred over to the shops. So she finished her contract as housekeeping, went home for a few months, and then came back as the shops. And the reason she was hired above a lot of other people is because we knew her. She cross-trained. She was always in the shops asking questions. We knew that she was good. So that's something that I wish I'd have known, like how easy it is to transfer to a different department once you have a job on the cruise ship. But anyway guys, those are the 8 things that I wish I knew before working on cruise ships. I really hope those help you out, and if they do then please let me know in the comments and also press the like button. But I really hope you have a wonderful day, whatever you decide to do, and as always guys, I will see you in the next video. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.